Today we'll start a new topic which is electricity and chemistry or electrolysis. In the beginning, introduction of this topic. So first what you have to know, a chemical cell and electrolytic cell. So first thing, labels of electrolytic cell. So basically what is the electrolytic cell? It is a cell in which we pass the current through a substance to cause chemical change. So when we are passing a current through a substance and we are causing a chemical changes, we call that cell as electrolytic cell. And for this electrolytic cell, you have to learn the labels. First thing, example, you have a container or a beaker, and this container is filled with a solution, and this solution is known as electrolyte. So a solution through which we want to pass the current, we call that solution or a substance as electrolyte. Then we take a battery. First, what is the difference between battery and cell? Combination of cells known as battery. For example, if I draw one big line and one small line, big line is representing the positive terminal of the battery and cell, and small line is representing negative terminal of the cell. If one is there, we call cell. But if we have a group or combination, then we call that as a battery. So combination of different cells, we call battery. But if it's only one single, we call that as cell. The big line is representing a positive terminal and small line is representing a negative terminal of the cell. So what we do, we connect either a battery or a cell. The big line represents the positive terminal of the cell and the small line is representing the negative terminal of the cell. And with this cell, we connect two plates which are dipped in the electrolyte or the solution. The plate which is connected with the positive terminal of the battery, that's called anode. First thing, I'm explaining the labels of this and then I will explain how it works. So the plate connected to a positive terminal of cell or a battery, that's having a specific name, we call that as anode. And the same thing, the plate which is connected with the negative terminal of the battery or a cell, we call that as cathode. And in the electrolyte, inside the electrolyte, because generally these electrolytes are salt solution or acids, so what they contain ions, positive and negative ions. So within the electrolyte there are ions or charges, positive and negative. Positive ions, which side the positive ions will move, towards anode or towards cathode? Positive ions. Which side the positive ions are attracted?
Cathode.
Towards cathode, because cathode is a negative terminal connected to a negative terminal of the battery, and unlike charges attract each other. So as the unlike charges or opposite charges attract, so the positive ions will move towards cathode. So as the positive ions move towards cathode, they are known as cations. Why cations? Because they are attracted towards cathode. Same thing, negative ions are attracted towards the positive plate or anode. So negative ions are attracted towards anode, and that's why, because they are attracted towards anode, we call them as anions. So this is the label for electrolytic cell. The positive terminal of the battery, the negative terminal of the battery. Big line is representing a positive terminal, small line is representing a negative terminal of the battery. The plate which is connected with the positive terminal of the battery, we call that as anode. The plate which is connected with the negative terminal of the battery, we call that as cathode. A common name can be used for both anode and cathode. So we can say this is electrode. We can also say this is electrode. So anode and cathode, common name for them is electrode. So anode is known as electrode, cathode is also known as electrode. But specifically, if I say the plate which is connected or electrode which is connected with a negative terminal, we call cathode, and the plate which is connected with a positive terminal, we call that as anode. The solution through which we are passing the current, that solution is known as electrolyte. And within the electrolyte, there are charges, positive and negative charges. As we know, unlike charges attract each other, so positive ions are attracted towards the negative plate, which is cathode, and positive ions are known as cations. Where negative ions are attracted towards the positive plate, which is anode, and due to this reason, we call them as anions. Is it clear? The labels of electrolytic cell? Any doubt in this? Yes, negative terminal always attract the positive because unlike charges attract. How the electrolytic cell works? So you have a battery, positive and negative terminals. It is not necessary that left hand side is positive, right hand side negative. It can be other way around. You can draw in this manner as well. It does not make difference. So in this case, if I draw, then it means this is a positive terminal and small line is a negative terminal. Now working of electrolytic cell, so we have a cell or a battery which is connected to metal plates. And this is inside the solution. The small line is representing a negative terminal and big line is representing a positive. So this one is positive terminal, this is negative. If I say label A, B, C, an example, there is another thing, D as well. First, what is A here? So A is basically the first A is anode. Number one is anode. What is number two? That is cathode. How I identify anode or cathode? The one which is connected with a negative terminal is called cathode, and the one which is connected with a positive terminal is called anode. And what is this third one known as? Yes, solution or electrolyte. Electrolyte is a chemical term which for electrolysis we use. That's called electrolyte. And if I say what is number four? It's not a voltmeter, because for voltmeter, if it's a voltmeter, it's V, but it's a cross is there on a circle, so actually it's a symbol for a bulb. Yeah, 4 is a bulb. For switch, this is a symbol for switch. So first thing is a label, bulb or a lamp. The electrolyte, generally, the electrolyte which we use, the common electrolyte, we use the salt solutions or acid. Why we use salt solution or acid? Because salts are ionic compounds, so when you dissolve or when you add them in water, so it will dissociate into charges. Because how the ionic compound exists, the ionic compound exists as a lattice. So there is a regular arrangement of positive and negative ions. So positive and negative ions regularly arranged in the structure, we call that an ionic compound. But when we add this into a water, so what we'll observe, the ions will dissociate or break down. So electrolyte are generally salt solutions or acids, or means dissolve in water. Now the working of electrolytic cell, basically how this electrolytic cell works. So first what happened, the electrons are negative charges. So the first thing what happened, the electrons from negative terminal of the battery or a cell, move towards cathode and attract positive ions. So this is what happened first initially. Electrons so from negative terminal of the battery, the electrons are coming out. Electron, I'm using a symbol E for electrons. So negative terminal of the battery, electrons are coming out. As these electrons are coming out, electrons are negative. So which charge they will attract?
Positive.
So they will attract the positive charges. So positive charges are attracted towards cathode. And what will happen when we say negative charges? So if I say the movement of electrons, so this positive terminal of the battery will attract the electron from anode so positive terminal of a cell or a battery attract electrons from anode. So this is a positive terminal because these anodes and cathode they are made up of conducting material. So they have electrons. So as they have electron, what will happen? The electrons which are there already are attracted towards the anode. So as the electrons are attracted from anode towards the positive terminal, so the number of the electron at anode will decrease and it will be positive. So basically what happened, because this anode, what it contain, anode and cathode, they contain positive charges and free electrons, positive charges and electrons. But what happened at cathode from a negative terminal of the battery, electron moves. As these electron move, so majority of them are electrons. So as majority or most of the particles are electron, so what will be the charge on the cathode? The cathode will become negative charge. Same thing, what happened? Positive terminal of the battery will attract the electron from anode, so electron will go out. As the electron will go out, so most of the charges which are there at anode will be positive. So number of electron and anode will decrease and it will be positive as the positive charge, and the positive charge will attract the negative ions from the electrolyte. So this is the main working of a electrolytic cell. I will repeat. Look, what happened? You have a positive and negative terminal. From a negative, in the beginning, anode and cathode are neutral. Like when you're not passing a current, there is no charge on them. But when you connect a cell or a battery, so from a negative terminal of the battery, electrons will come out. So the cathode will have most electrons, or majority of the charges are electron. If majority of the charges are electron, what will be the charge here? The charge will be negative. So cathode become negative charge. As the cathode become negative charge, it will always attract the positive ions. And what will happen? The positive terminal of the battery will attract the electron from anode. As the positive terminal attract the electron from anode, so most of the electron are being lost to from the anode, So what will be the overall charge on anode, or most of the charges will be positive. So anode become positive charge. As the anode become positive charge, what will happen? It will attract the negative ions from the electrolyte. Is it clear the working of electrolytic cell? The movement of the charges. So you have a positive terminal and a negative terminal of the battery. The negative terminals supply electrons to the cathode, so cathode become negatively charged. The positive terminal of the battery remove electrons from anode, so anode become positively charged. So cathode is negatively charged, anode is positively charged, and they will attract the ions from the solution. And when there's a movement of the ions or charges, so what we'll observe? We'll observe the lamp or the bulb will light up. So this is the working of electrolytic cell. So anode contain positive ions and the free electrons. Positive ions are larger in size, so they cannot move, they can only vibrate. And electron or delocalized electrons are free to move. So example, there are 6 positive charges and I made 6 electrons as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Now what I did, I connect this to a positive terminal of the battery. And the other one, I connect with the negative terminal of the battery, and that is also having 6 positive charges. And 6 electrons. So in the beginning, you can see here, there are electrons are negatively charged and there's a positive charge. So overall charge on this is 0. It's neither positive nor negative. What is the overall charge? The net charge. Net charge is also 0. Why the net charge is 0? Because if plus 6 is there and electrons are negative, so plus 6 minus 6 is 0. Here also plus 6 and minus 6 is also 0. Now what you did, you connect them with a cell or a battery. So positive terminal of the battery, because unlike charges always attract each other. So the positive terminal of the battery, which charges it will attract? The positive terminal will attract the electrons. So as the positive terminal will attract the electrons, so electrons will go out. So electrons will go out. As the electron will go out, example, if out of 6 electrons, originally there were 6 electrons, but out of 6 electrons, now I am left with only 4. So what is the overall charge now? It is plus 6 and minus 4. So what is the overall or net charge? The overall or net charge will be plus 2. So because the electrons are removed from the anode by the positive terminal of the battery, unlike charges attract each other, so overall charge on anode will become positive. Same thing, negative terminal of a battery or a cell supply electron. So when the negative terminal supply electron, so originally there were 6 electrons, but as the negative terminal supply more electron, so example, it supplied 2 more electrons. So what is the overall charge now? It is plus 6 and minus 8. So plus 6 and minus 8, what is the net charge or overall charge? It's minus 2. So this will become overall negative and this will become overall positive. So why the anode become positive? Because of attraction from the positive terminal of the battery, attraction of electrons or attraction towards the electron from positive terminal of the battery. Is it clear?
Yes.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, the electrons from the anode are going to the cathode?
No, actually it's not a direct transfer. Within the cell also there are chemicals which are taking and supplying these electrons. So practically it's not like anode is like what you think. that anode take electron and anode supply electron, and that is going towards cathode. Actually, it's not happening like this. The cells have their own working. Cells have their chemicals which are gaining electron and losing electron. So these electrons are not the same electron which are coming from the anode.
The same thing is for a battery too, right?
Same thing for battery.
Okay, sir.
Is it clear? The working of electrolytic cell. So in exams, they mention draw an arrow to show the movement of electrons, and so what you will show or how you will represent in electrolytic cell. First take a screenshot of this. So I will move on. So draw an arrow if a question is to show movement of electrons in electrolytic cell. So if a question is draw an arrow to show movement of electrons in electrolytic cell. So this one is a positive terminal, negative terminal. The one which is connected with the negative terminal is cathode, anode, and electrolyte. And within the solution, you have normally ions, positive and negative ions. The positive ions are known as cations, negative ions are known as anions. Now, if a question is draw an arrow to show the movement of electron in electrolytic cell. So from the negative terminal, electrons are going out. So cathode will have majority of the electrons. You don't have to show these electrons, but just an arrow. And the positive terminal of the battery will attract the electron from anode. So this is the arrow which represent the movement of the electrons. These are the wires and electrolyte. If I say which particle is moving in the wire, yes, which particle is moving inside the wire? Yes, the electrons are actually moving in the wire. And if a question is which particle, or which particles are moving in electrolyte. So which particles are moving in electrolyte within the electrolyte? Which particles are moving within the electrolyte? The positive. So simply you can say ions or you can say positive and negative ions. Is it clear? The movement of electrons, the direction arrows to show movement of electrons, and the charges which are there within the electrolyte are moving within the electrolyte. Any doubt in this? Take the screenshot. Now, how we define the term electrolysis? Actually, this term electro here refers to charge and lysis refers to breaking. So when we are breaking the substance into charges, we call that as electrolysis. But the standard definition of electrolysis, the process of passing current through electrolyte, we call that as electrolysis. So when we are passing a current through the electrolyte, we simply call that electrolysis. And the electrolyte, the solution which we use, the electrolyte can have two possibilities. Maybe it is molten electrolyte, or maybe it is aqueous electrolyte. So molten electrolyte, what is the term? Molten electrolyte means it does not contain water. If there is no water in the electrolyte, we call that as molten electrolyte. Aqueous electrolyte, it contains water. If a electrolyte or a solution contain water, we call that as aqueous electrolyte. And aqueous electrolytes are also divided into two classes. One is known as concentrated. Another one is dilute. Concentrated electrolyte, it contains less water, and dilute electrolyte contain more water. If more water molecules or more water particles are there, we call that as dilute electrolyte. If less amount of water is there, but it's very small quantity of water compared to a substance or a salt, we call that as concentrated electrolyte. So the process of passing current, when we are passing a current through a solution or through an electrolyte, we call electrolysis. And the electrolyte, the solution can be molten. Molten means it does not contain water, or it can be aqueous. Aqueous means it contains water. And if electrolyte is aqueous, it has two possibilities. Either it can be concentrated. The term concentrated means it contains less amount of water, And if it is dilute electrolyte, means it contains greater amount of water. Take the screenshot.